Rhulani Baloyi. You are welcome this evening, and my apologies that we took some time before we could come through. Thank you to all of you, our viewers, our loyal, prudent women who are always here joining us. You are all welcome, and to all of you who are joining us for the first time. The show is called Prudent Woman because we say we want to be prudent as women. We want to be informed and take decisions which will be beneficial for our lives as well as for our own family members and our loved ones and society at large. So tonight we are here once more as we come to you every Sunday, 4 o'clock until 5 o'clock. I trust that you will enjoy the session. Yes, it's not a session. Tonight is not a session that we can say it's nice. We are talking on something that is heavy for our country and globally as well. But I would like to say knowledge is better than just to say, I do not need to know that because it's not something that I'm happy about. But we need to be aware about all these things so that we can be able to prevent them. We can be able to respond accordingly and become prudent women. So tonight, as you join us on Facebook, those of you who are joining us on YouTube, and of course, we encourage all of you to join us on our YouTube channel and subscribe so that you do not miss some of the things that we bring along as Bold Moves Radio. Those of you who are joining us on Bold Moves Radio via the online streaming, I invite you, converse with us, send us your questions, send us your comments as we go through this topic on 081 358 8745. And of course, all of you who are joining us through our social media platforms, you can drop down your comments, your questions on the comment section. You are welcome. Tonight, I'm not alone. Of course, I have with me Mkateko Mabobo. Mkateko Mabobo, she's a legal practitioner. She is a lady who is part of the South African chapter of Women Judges. It's an international organization that is doing quite a number of community work. I think she will explain to us when she comes on the platform. But tonight, I would like to say to you, we are talking on human trafficking prevention. We have her coming in here to come and highlight to us what is human trafficking. It is very important for us to have this conversation at this point in time because we are at the beginning of the year. Some of us have taken our children to institutions of higher learning. They are away from us and they are in new environments, surrounded by new people. Some of them are starting work in different workplaces. They've never been familiar with such areas. And even ourselves as elderly people, come January, we always look forward to doing something new. And it's a good thing, but you need to be aware of the things that can happen to you. So this conversation this evening, to us as prudent women, as bold moves, is very important. We want to talk on it so that we can even demystify some of the myths that we have. With me, before I had to do research on human trafficking, I always thought human trafficking is when they carry you unwilling, screaming, take you in the car, maybe in the boot of a car, speed off with you. But when I was doing my research, I realized that that is far from it. It can happen that way, but it can even happen without you even being aware. When talks like this do not happen because you don't get to know. But I believe people like Mkateko Mabobo are people who work on these things on a daily basis. They have seen different ways of how people who are in this criminal activity are always trying their best to lure their victims, for them not to even realize that they are being trafficked. So that is why we're having this conversation this evening. I invite you, please talk to us, send your comments, questions. Some of these things, they are new to us, but people like Mkateko who are in the legal fraternity knows about these things. Mkateko, I invite you. Thank you so much for joining us. And I invite you to greet our audience and maybe tell us about this institution, this institute that you are part of women judges.
Okay, you have already mentioned my name. I hope I'm audible enough. It seems I'm cut off. Am I audible enough that you can hear me?
You are audible enough, but if you can tilt your camera up so that we can see your whole head. Yes, thank you. That spot is
Okay.
perfect.
Okay. You have already introduced me. Um, I'm a lady who does a lot of community work because I'm in the executive of an organization called the South African Chapter of International Women Judges. It is a global organization. Our headquarters are in the United States of America, but each country where there are women judges, women magistrates, women advocates, we are part of that organization. Today's topic is something which is very close to my heart because it can happen to anyone. It is called trafficking in persons. Even myself, I can be trafficked. Anyone can be trafficked. It takes different forms. And it is nowadays we call it is a modern day slavery. Remember, years ago when you read history, they will tell you that people used to come from Europe and take black people and exploit them in any manner that they want. But nowadays, it's so modernized that you will not see that you are a victim of trafficking because their work is so seamless. It's so seamless in the sense if it comes in a form of an advert. When you look at an advert, it will be a genuine thing. You check on the GPS, their coordinates, their addresses. It's seamless that you will not pick up that there is a challenge. But realizing that there's a problem in South Africa also, which is named to be a transit. South Africa has been named globally to be a transit country for most of the people who are trafficked all over the world. And you must ask yourself, why is South Africa being chosen? It is chosen because we are a democratic state, which, we believe we give somebody the benefit of the doubt. And they know our legal system that, yes, they will be arrested, they will be prosecuted. But when all these investigations are being done, because it is an organized crime, they are able to hide some of the information. And how do they hide this information? Some of the victims of being trafficked, they can get missing, or they will be more hooked in whatever they've been trafficked for, whether to transport drugs or for sexual exploitation. It all depends.
One thing that I got when I was going through the research was this issue of saying we are a transit. It is said that as a nation, we are a source, we are a transit, and what is the third one? And I realized that these are words that when you are not in that field, you do not understand, you may not understand. I just want you to just try to explain to us when you say we are a transit, what are we talking about?
Okay, so Rhulani, hello?
Yes, we can hear you, but I think your gadget moved a bit. Yeah.
Is it okay now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. When we speak of human trafficking, there are elements that we need to determine before we say this is a victim of trafficking. There must be a recruiter. A recruiter, most of the time, is a person whom you know, a person whom you believe in, a person whom, even when they come to your parents will give them permission to take you along. And once you are recruited, it means you will be transported. The reason why there is transportation is to take you out of your familiar places, to take you
Yes.
out from the people whom you will run to. And then you will be taken to a place where normally you don't know the people, you do not know the language, or the system in there is so difficult for you that you can go and report that you are a victim. And in most of those circumstances, it's where you are taken to a foreign country. And you can have a look at what is happening in South Africa, and we tend to look away. I just want
Mm,
to give
mm,
you just a typical example of what human trafficking is all about and how
mm.
ignorant we can be sometimes. When you drive in Polokwane town,
Yeah.
when you look at the robots coming, you can go to Hosiami. I even know all those places because I went to authorities to say, tell me what is it that is happening. When
Mm,
you will find a blind man with either a boy or a girl. Hot as it is, they will be standing there begging for money.
mm,
And since I know what trafficking is all about,
mm,
I once stopped and asked the boy, who brings you here? To show that these people knows that this understood that I know more than what is happening. The boy
mm.
ran away. Why do they run away? Because they are told if you say something about us, the person whom you're with, being your blind uncle, your blind father, they are going to kill them.
Kill
That is
them.
how
Yeah.
human trafficking works. That is how people are manipulated to live in fear. But what I want us today to concentrate on is our children who just started university,
Mm,
and also our children who has just passed matric and they said they are taking a gap year. Those are the people whom I want today to speak about, because we know the challenges in our country that not every family is working. And you
yeah.
find a child has passed the matric, but the parents can't afford to find a decent accommodation for their
Mm,
child. And that is where exploitation starts. And that's where recruitment can start. And that's where this child can find herself or himself in a dangerous place.
mm,
Um, or a child who has taken a gap year. You know, if a child has taken a gap year, they have time in their hands, and most of the time they will be in social media platforms. And we've realized in our country that social media has tended to be one of the recruitment instrument to be used by these criminals. And these criminals can act like they are here in South Africa, whereas they are not in South Africa. They will write everything that you can come for an interview to work in Arabia. We are going to teach English.
mm,
And when you look at the documentation as a parent, or when you give somebody who is familiar with places, can say, this looks so genuine,
mm,
and we
mm,
get so trusting, and by trusting, that is when we put ourselves in a lot of danger. And
mm,
it can happen to anyone. It has happened to a lot of people. And it's a cycle of abuse, in the sense that people who were victims of trafficking end up being traffickers themselves.
mm,
Because
mm,
after working out, after being exploited in the manner in which they were exploited, they have nothing in their hands. Let's take, for an instance, a child who went overseas to work because they promised that child a specific amount of monies to be paid. And what they do, these traffickers, is they will sometimes send money home and to your parents, and your parents will give you a call, and they will call who? They will call your employers, and your parents will be so excited to be telling them that we have received the money. And it will not be a little money, it will be a lot of money. But you, being a victim, you'll be told you are still going to work for us until you pay off. Then, as
mm,
parents, I urge you, these are new ways that are coming into our lives, or new trends that are coming into our lives by our kids who are on social media saying, I'm taking a gap year. I don't want, I'm still thinking of what I want
mm,
to do. It's a bad choice. I don't know what is it all about to take a gap year. and what is this gap year all about. But we are from different families. But if you're a parent whom your child says, I need a gap year, interrogate what is it that they will be doing in this year. And if your child, yes, finds an opportunity, some of the adverts, yes, are genuine. But remember, we've got different agencies in the Republic. Everything, even
Yes.
this combating of persons, human trafficking, it has an act. It is governed by law. You do have the right to approach a police station that's got Interpol, so that they verify all that information that your child is giving to, so that before you can even allow your child to leave the country. Because remember, victims of trafficking, they are being removed from the people they love, and they are put in places where they will not be comfortable.
Yeah.
Just imagine you find yourself in a family in the United States of America, because most of the people whom I have seen lately, the trends that we have received as an organization, it is criminals who are indicating they are living in the United States of America. They are asking for South African girls who are very good in English, who are good in caring for kids, where the parents are professionals, and due to the workload, they want a South African child because of South Africa having Ubuntu. And when we realize this, even in the manner in which they wrote Ubuntu, you can see that it is not an agency. It is not an agency that works together with the South African agency. It is just officials. That's what they do. And they want somebody, only one person, to fall into that trap. And once you fall into that trap, the cycle of abuse happen.
Yeah.
And before I can,
I love what you said about the different agencies in our country, because we tend not to do due diligence on offers that were given. It is not only the offers that you get to go outside the country, but even offers right here in the country. So I love what you said, because most of the time when you have an offer, it is very important to first check it out. If it's outside the country, you should also engage with the embassy. That's my understanding. So I love what you are saying, because you are alerting us to say whatever that you get, you must first check it out. I have seen, maybe you want to check on to talk on, for instance, not only that people are trafficked to go and work, but even with schooling. As you said, we're focusing on our young adults who have just passed their matric. If you can just focus on the schooling, these schools that you find that they are not registered, things happen there, how parents should make sure that these schools are legit before they send off their children. Can you, before you talk, yeah, if you can tilt your camera, we cannot see you properly. And please do not touch it so that it does not move around. You are frozen now.
is it fine
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, don't touch.
I'm sorry.
No, we are no
Um,
longer seeing your face. We're no longer seeing your face. Again, put it forward again. We don't see your face. I don't. The top, like I have a phone like this, just pull it like forward. Yeah. If it's a phone, you are fine. Where you were, go
okay.
back a bit. Go back. Go back again. Yeah, it's better, but don't touch it so that it
Okay.
doesn't.
Thank you. Okay. You were talking about schooling. I will be making reference to case laws, to cases that we come across.
Can I disturb you? Just go back a bit. We only see your half here. Get back
Back.
again.
Is it fine now?
No, we not. Yeah, that's better. Please leave it there. Don't touch
Okay.
it. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. No, I will be making reference to cases that has happened in South Africa, where as parents, we know, as I've already indicated earlier, that we find mostly in South Africa it's women-headed families where a mother cannot afford to take a child along to go to Johannesburg and see the kind of an accommodation where the child will be staying. And due to the love of education and a child knowing what she has left behind, they go and stay in places which are not good. Not good in what sense? We have a challenge in the country. A lot of things went wrong, and to address them is going to take a lot of time, because we have people who are living in the country who are not South African, but they are owning buildings and they are owning flats where they are saying it's an accommodation for students. When you are a parent and you can't afford, it's best that you can send a family member to go and look at the place where your kids are staying. The case that I came across is a case where a young girl whom, because realizing that she has been paying the amount that they were requesting, they started at rental for 500 rands. The mother could afford. She paid it. They were every month. They were increasing the money to an extent that she was no longer able to pay the amount, and that is where exploitation started. Remember, this child was not recruited, because remember, there are elements when it comes to human trafficking. And the challenge that we had with the case is she was not recruited, she was not transported, but she found herself in a place where she was exploited. But the lucky part of this girl is she was not sexually exploited. But remember, human trafficking comes into different forms. With this child, it was labor. She was hired to do work for these people who were owning these flats day and night, and she was no longer performing at school. Why? Because these people whom she was owing rental, they were telling her every month that we have increased. Last month, it's now 1,000 rands. The following month, it's now 2,000 rands. She was in bondage when it comes to these people, to an extent that even when it is school holidays, she was not allowed to go home. She will be missing classes because she was a nanny. She was a laundry girl. She will be taking a laundry to where they do laundry, wait doing the laundry there, pack, take it back. Why was it happening? It's because the parents were not able to afford to go and look where their kids are staying. I'm not saying that each and every parent now should panic and say, let's go and see where our kids are living. But it is very much advisable as a parent, when your child tells you that I have gotten accommodation, find out who is the owner of this apartment which your child is talking about, and what kind of people is your child living with. Because some of those people in these apartments where they are saying it's for students, some of those people are not students, they are recruiters. And people are being recruited for different reasons. You must know, in South Africa, there are girls who were recruited for sexual exploitation. There are boys who were recruited for their organs, for their lungs, because they were not smoking, they were good boys. But there are countries where men and women, they smoke, they have smoked their lungs off, and they don't have lungs. And what do? They find the most vulnerable. Who are the most vulnerable? Are the people who are coming from disadvantaged families. And just because these kids understood their background, they went and stayed in these places where they felt the parents will afford. But when they are there, they are recruited. And when they are recruited, they are not told that you will be transported, you will be taken where your organ is going to be taken out. And don't think they will be transported out of South Africa. organs are stolen from South Africans right here inside South Africa. But why is it happening? Is because we tend to look away.
Yes.
As South Africans, we tend to look away. And why am I saying we tend to look away? I remember a friend of mine said to me this other day, we were from a meeting in Pretoria and we were driving in Sunnyside. She said to me, I don't like driving in this place anymore. And I asked why. It has been taken over.
Yeah.
And I asked her, taken over by who? If you are a legal practitioner and you are not standing in for the rights of the most vulnerable and you say this is a no-go area, it means you're given certain criminals that right to indeed take over. Because as South Africans, indeed, we like to turn our away. We ignore what is happening. But once it hits home, it is the time that it's you get now you want to react, but it will be too late because the one who has been trafficked is so familiar and is so used to whatever has been happening. Yes.
You
Then
know,
don't.
I would like us to go to an ad break. When we come back, Mkateko, I want us to look at just the profile of these people, because we have realized that in most cases, you've just mentioned an area in Pretoria, and that's what sort of we believe it's human trafficking. But I've realized that we have left out a certain group which does not really look criminal, but they seem like very good people and lure people through the things that they have, material things like vehicles. I'll want us to zoom into that just to bring in that awareness so that people can see that when we talk human trafficking, we're not only talking about a criminal that when you see, you believe it's a criminal, you must run away, but even people who look genuine and who look rich can also be human traffickers. Let us go on an ad break. We'll be right back with you. Thank you very much. The show is Prudent Woman. You are listening to Bold Moves Radio. We are talking on combating human trafficking. We have with us a member of the Women Judges Association who is talking to us about human trafficking. Kateko, we are right back. Maybe, as I said before we went on an ad break, let us look into a profiling this type of people. We have spoken about those whom you find in those areas in Pretoria, but there's a certain group that I've realized that our children and even us as adults, we find ourselves in trouble because you trust this person. This person drives such a posh vehicle and you think they are good, not knowing their intentions, and they lure you. And it's only when it's too late you realize that something has gone wrong.
With traffickers, I said it's a sophisticated business that is making millions. When you Google and find and check how much do traffickers do globally, they are talking of billions of rands. And it
Yes.
all depends on the type of a profession a trafficker is doing. You will think me as a legal person, I will never be trafficked. I can be trafficked. I can be trafficked to go anywhere in the world, and not solely um, for exploitation, which is degrading, but even a professional can be trafficked. In what sense? In what sense? You are a qualified chartered accountant, and here comes a man driving a good car, indicating the most prestigious companies worldwide, and tell you that we are headhunting. And when we were looking, we found you. And because when you check this person, indeed, it's a genuine person who
Yes.
is doing that kind of a work, who is so well established. And indeed, you go home.
Pray.
But when you arrive, indeed, you will be working as an accountant, you will be working as a specialist doctor. But at the end of the day, you are exploited. In what sense? You find yourself, you are working more hours than other people. Your salary that you were promised is not the same salary that you were informed before you leave your country. And what they do normally when it comes to professionals, we call it smaller prints. Smaller
Okay.
prints where we hardly look at, and we normally do that even when we are signing contracts, when we are buying cars or houses, those smaller prints. And you find yourself in a smaller print, you have signed that you will not leave the company unless if you have worked for more than 5 years. And what they do, it's a well orchestrated web of lies, where even when you go to the police, your employer will come with a contract and says, Mikateko can't leave. She only has 6 months. And she's so spoiled, you know how South Africans behave. Now she wants to go back. If she leaves, we want our monies. With the money that we bought a house for her. We flew Mikateko in. Anybody can be a victim of human trafficking. It doesn't matter as to who you are. It doesn't matter as to how much educated or how much unlearned are you, but anyone can be a victim. It all depends on a type of the recruiters. What is it that this recruiter
They're looking
is
for.
looking for? And once you must to show that sometimes, let me leave the professional ones. Let me get to, there was once an incident of a child in our church where a child received an invite for a Sweet 16 party. And I'm so happy because the parents didn't leave it as it is. They called me to say, we want you to come and have a look at something. And indeed, I went. The first thing when I look at the advert, our dialing code is +27.
Yes.
And that dialing code in that invitation, it was +237. That was the first thing that I saw. And
Yeah.
the child was so angry. The child was so angry to say, this is my friend. I met this friend of mine on Instagram. We will deal with age limits when it comes to social media one day. It's a topic for another day. But my
Yes.
question which I ask is, why is this child on Instagram on this age? Because Instagram has got an age limit. But I said that is an issue which I'm not there for. I showed them, and they picked the most expensive restaurant in Polokwane. And I told them, the reason you're saying your child is angry, let me take your child. Because when we get there, I know there's no party. But a fisher is there. And they didn't send this invite to your child alone. I believe they've sent this to several kids. To my surprise, when I arrived at the restaurant, I will mention it, they said Fusion Boutique. When I arrived there, I found several parents. Parents I identified whom they are schooling together, which shows somebody was targeting certain children from that particular school. Then I showed the child, I said, you are so lucky that all of you who are here, your parents love you so much because they realized, they saw it that there's a problem. How can one host a sweet 16 party when it's not a South African? Because the invite was saying, I just started living in Pulukwane, I don't have friends, and I'm turning 16. Then, since you are my friend on Instagram, can you give me the honor to attend my party? What honor is that? Do you honor a
Because
stranger
beauty
by
is
attending a party for a stranger? Then
mm,
it was an eye opener for the child when we
mm,
arrived there. As I said, I told the parents I will go in depth together with this child to understand how recruiters operate. Because all of
yes.
these kids who were going to Fusion Boutique was saying, no, we know nothing. But they
Yes.
wanted for only one mistake one child can do, to call
Mm,
and say, where are you?
yeah.
Because once a child calls and say, where are you? Your child will be diverted from Fusion and you will never get your child. Then I showed it to this child to say, right now you feel so aggrieved that your parents didn't allow you. But how do you feel after all this exercise that I have done with you? For going to Fusion, for seeing all these kids who were there under this false invitation. And
Yeah.
I was happy to tell her, if we dial this number now, do you want me to dial the number? And if we dial the number now, this person will tell us a different story.
Sorry.
Only to find one of the parents there has already called, and the person said, we have changed the venue. We are now
Oh.
at Savannah Mall. You see, we are now
Yeah.
at Savannah. No, it is to show they only want to get one target. It's
One.
enough for them. One target is a lot of money for traffickers. Then, as parents, you might find it's a confusing issue when it comes to human trafficking. And it's so confusing, even in court, to prove that you are a victim. We have a
Yeah.
case which was there in Port Elizabeth of a pastor who was taking kids to a show. He was calling it a safe house. Was it a safe house, or was it a house where kids were sexually violated under the name of being obedient to God? Those are things that traffickers does. And I'm telling you, it was by the grace that that case was cracked before these kids were cracked. The kids will be cracked in what sense? They will be so used to the sexual exploitation to an extent when it's time for them to be transported to the different countries of the world, they will be so used to it. That is how traffickers work. They first put you in a safe house. If you will be a drug a dealer, they will be pumping you drugs so that can allow whatever thing that they are telling
That they
you.
want.
If you will be going for sexual exploitation, they will be doing it to you that you get so used to it that when you get to the market, you will be the engine of the market. If it is for labor, there's something which people are not talking about. The World Cup in Qatar, as to how many African males have died building those
The
stadiums
stadiums. Yeah.
in the heat of the United Emirates, where it tends to be 50 degrees. And those black men and black women who were trafficked in Africa, they were told that you will not work when it's hot. You will
Yeah.
work when the weather allows. And those were recruitments. And when you are told that you're going to build a stadium for the world class, a FIFA World Cup, who will
Yes.
reject that offer from Africa when you are suffering? But where are the statistics today? They are hiding of people who fell because of the heat. And why did they agree? The recruiters told them different things. The recruiters told them different things. And these are the things that are happening day in, day out, even inside South Africa. But the last word that I will want to tell my students is, you better stick to the devil you know. Whom are your
Yes.
friends you grew up with at home? The friends you grew up with at church? The friends whom you were together in high school? This thing of I'm in a new environment, that you even change your friends, you are not going to get good friends. You are going to get friends who are already recruiters. And you might not be transported anywhere, but you will be exploited here in the Republic of South Africa. You will be exploited right here under the nose of your friends, whom you said you found new friends. Those are not friends. People whom you meet at school are people whom you're studying together. You must
Yes.
have boundaries as to whom do you call a friend or whom do you call a classmate. A classmate and a friend are two different people. And that's where our children confuse issues. And why do
Yes.
you go and share accommodation with people who don't know? Do not be
Not
so
at school.
desperate. Do not be so desperate to an extent that you find yourself in an apartment where you are sharing with people you don't know. If you are desperate, come back home until you are sorted out. You can study from home. You can go to the department where you are studying and inform them that you are still struggling to get accommodation. But don't go and live with strangers, because people you don't know where they are coming from, you don't know what they are doing, you don't know what they are believing in. But to be surrounded by people whom you know, you will be able to call each other to order. Because when
Yes.
you go to Sunnyside, when you drive in Gauteng at night, the things that you will observe are things that are chilling to us as parents, because we do
Our
not
children to be
expect
doing such.
to be doing such. I went to Times Square in Main Lane due to work purposes, and it was so painful because the president of the country was there. The president Ramaphosa was there in Times Square. What we saw on that night, we
Ish.
have sold our soul as South African, and we
But
cannot say the constitution made us to sell our soul.
no, no.
No, it is not. It is who you are, which will allow you to do things which, when you left home, you were not doing. Gauteng
And
must not change.
it's information like what you are saying to us, Mkateko, that should enlighten us as parents, because, you know, you rightfully put it. We come from an era where a whole lot of things were not there. As you said, that when it comes to issues of social media, I thought I will ask you to talk on social media. But I realize now that as we're talking, that human trafficking is such a huge thing and a very important topic that we need to talk about. And I see even our viewers here are commenting. I see Lili Maja just said, we need that session when you were talking on the social media issues. And I see she's also saying unemployment being so high in our country and our youth desperate for work. This information is so important, because you are highlighting to us, that it is, they look for vulnerable people, those people coming from families which are less fortunate. But I also realize as you're talking that even those who are well off, because when you talk Times Square, it's an area where a child who does not have money may not be able to access. But the question is to our children, do you know the people that you're going to be staying with? I'm always very cautious when a child wants to go and stay in an apartment, more special for a first year, rather than going to stay at the university residence. Because in a university residence, at least the university is responsible and things, the people that are there, they are looked after, and there's some sort of rules and regulations that are put in place. So I see also someone asking, how do you balance as a parent with all that you were saying? I think, how do you balance as a parent or as a friend on how to support? Because with the example you gave with that young person, sometimes they become so angry that they do not want to talk to you. But I love the parents that you are talking about, because they came in and also allowed you to assist them. But it's not every time where you are given that platform. Sometimes when our children got offers, we tend to think, I should not tell anyone because this is an opportunity. And if someone like yourself, Mkateko, questions it, it's like you are taking an opportunity away from my child. So it's very difficult. But I say, prudent women and everyone who's listening to us, let us be cautious. The world out there is very dangerous, as she's saying to us. And I see we don't have enough time. I have to let go, but we have started the conversation. And we always say, as Prudent Woman, the program, we start conversations here, but we're saying, let us take them forward. Talk to the person next to you, talk to your loved ones about these things, and let's take the conversation forward, because it is all our responsibility as society. Some of these criminals are here in the country because we're turning a blind eye. But should we stand up and rise up and say no in our country, and also be diligent with our children and even with ourselves, and not be gullible? Because in most cases it's because we are also gullible. You know, Mkateko, I always see an advert, they will say, come and work in the what country, it's free, you'll get what. And I always say, but which country has got all these things? Because I think it's a global phenomenon. Everyone does not have money. There are no jobs. But why will this country be advertising things like this? So as we draw close to the end of the show, Kateko, I would like to request that just take us through, as parents, how can we balance, and what is it that we can do to make sure that our children and our loved ones are aware of these things that are happening? Because I know, more especially for a show like Prudent Woman, you find that our young people are not here. But how do you make sure that your child is aware of human trafficking, and how do you prevent it?
If the motto by the International Migration Organization, I hope parents, you must go and look at that website. International Migration Organization is an organization that, as the South African chapter for women judges, we're working together with. We always say, if it's too good to be true, then it is not true. If it's too good to be true, there's no country in the world that can allow a child who has passed matric that they will buy you a house, they will be paying you this, they will be paying for your flights. No, it can't be. It cannot be. Even if they are saying you are a lucky person, yes, you will be lucky, but those will be very few. But not in a capital world, a capitalist system that globally we are living in, that a country can just choose a person without any experience and say, we'll fly you to come, we'll get you a good place to stay. If it is not good, unbelievable, then it is not believable. Don't be.
True.
Remember, these people are criminals whom their work is seamless. It's seamless in what sense? You will not see the mistake.
Yeah.
You will only realize when you arrive. Even a person can be trafficked from here in Polokwane to Johannesburg, and you will think it will never happen. When you get to Johannesburg, it's a different city. It's a different way of life. Things are faster. Cars are not like here. It's jam-packed in there. You will even forget that it's Johannesburg, which if you can walk back home, but they will change your mind. They will make you forget who you are. Therefore, as a parent, this thing of living in a world where you don't trust one another, I don't know where it's coming from. Because we're now growing in a village, when our neighbors cook moroho, they will share with us. Why did then our parents be able to share relish, but now we are unable to share a smaller information of my child has been offered this. Mikateko, since you are doing this kind of work, can you come and have a look? It is good to share. It doesn't mean that you must talk about the most confidential of it all, but that knowledge to get the views of another person is very important. It is very important, because you will get an information which will be an eye opener. to
Yeah.
you, which will be an eye opener that you can help other people. But with human trafficking, I'm telling you, it's not easy to break in the circle. It is not easy to break in the circle, in the sense that there are people, we tend to turn a blind eye as South Africans, and we turn away our heads. When you go, even here in Polokwane, you will find hair salons where it's strictly a certain nationals working there.
Yes.
And you go and support that business as South Africans. Have you,
Mm.
when they are doing your hair, have you ever asked them, do they have documents? And if they don't have documents, those are people who will be on the road for months, because you can't leave Ghana and come to South Africa by road and take 5 days. It cannot be. It can't be. But they are here in South Africa. And when they are doing your hair, have you ever asked, tell me how you landed in South Africa? You just enjoy a hairdo, and you are making somebody somewhere rich, because those people doing those salon work, they're in bondage. In
Yeah.
bondage, in what sense? They're being counted. I paid for your flight to leave Ghana. I've paid your accommodation. You are going to do hair from 6 o'clock until 6 o'clock in the evening, and that money belongs to me. That is why you find them. Some will plait your hair and you will not sleep because they are living in anger. Then the advice
They're
I can say,
angry.
they are
Yeah.
angry. Yes, they are angry. You will be paying money which they're not gonna be receiving. Then, as the South Africans, what I will say as my last words, I believe, please don't look away. Do not
Yeah.
look away anymore. It's time that we fix our country. And
Yes.
little by little, we will do it right. But we tend
Yeah.
to look away with so many problems that we are having. We tend to look away. We are looking away with electricity issue. We are looking away with water shortage. We are looking away with our education system. That universities are continuing to take money, whereas they know that the careers that are in there has now been so saturated. They are not telling students that go to TVET colleges. But as parents, we are looking away and we don't tell our kids the truth. And it's time to tell our children the truth, that being a plumber, it doesn't mean you are not working. Being an electrician, it doesn't mean it's not an employment. But we look away and we say, just because she went to university, she's encouraging my child to go and do plumbing. Who does she think she is? No, we must not talk like that. But we need a talk. We need a talk where somebody, after sleeping and in the morning, they will say, she was
Yeah.
right.
Thank you so much, Kateko. Oh, I wish we had 2 hours for the show, because I can hear from the talk and even from the comments that I'm seeing on Facebook and YouTube that, ladies, of course, this is very important information. But again, as prudent women, we say we want to know these things so that we can be impactful in our society, impactful with our loved ones, and even with our immediate family members. I would like to say thank you so much, Mkateko, for all the information you have shared with us. Prudent women, please let us continue the conversation. Go in and check all those sites that she has spoken about. But again, what is very important is back to basics. Let us go back to Ubuntu, because we realize that with Ubuntu, we were able to share all these things. I will care about the other child, and a child was not a child for that family, but it was a child for the whole society. So we will not be finding ourselves where our children have been trafficked. They are somewhere in some remote rural area in China, and they are unable to even come back, because someone will have known that this is not the real. And if it is too good to be true, let it go. It may truly not be true. So that is what I'm leaving you with. Have a blessed afternoon. We shall see you next week, same time, Sunday, 4 o'clock up until 5 o'clock. And of course, Bold Moves Radio has got quite a number of programs. As I said to you, subscribe on our YouTube channel. Nothing shall miss you. And all our programs are all about empowering us as South Africans, as Africans, as our slogan, we say, raising the hope of an African child. All our programs are to empower you, packed with information so that we should become a better South Africa. South Africa cannot be fixed by people outside, but should be fixed by us. Then we will own up to it and will be able to hand over a better South Africa to our future children. And yes, join us tomorrow morning for our morning devotions every day from Monday up until Friday. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, just for 30 minutes. Join us. Let us pray for our country. Let us pray for our families. Let us pray for our nation. Have a blessed evening. Thank you to DJ Macy and DJ Guams. They are the ones who have been assisting us on the studio. Would like to say thank you. And of course, our executive producer, Pastor Strike, who will not be here without him. Thank you. Have a blessed evening.
Streaming 24/7.
Bold Moves Radio.